Welcome to Let's Talk Business Phoenix, the Greater Phoenix Chamber's podcast. I'm your host, Todd Sanders, President and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Chamber. Each week, we tackle key issues affecting businesses, the community, and state, aiming to drive growth and overcome challenges while uniting community leaders to move Phoenix forward.
Let's Talk Business Phoenix was produced in partnership with Ideas Collide, an agency offering a full suite of custom marketing solutions for your brand's unique challenges. Make a connection at ideascollide.com.
Well, welcome back to the podcast. We have a very special guest today and a good friend, Chad Campbell, who's the Chief of Staff for Governor Hobbs. Chad, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're a little busy right now.
Slightly, yeah.
Well, we're going to get into that, but for the two people out there who don't know who you are, maybe tell us a little bit about you and something that we wouldn't find on your resume.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, you already said I'm the Governor's Chief of Staff, obviously.
Yes.
Arizona native, Phoenix, born and bred here in Arizona. Been in the political scene now for going on 20 plus years. I was in the legislature for, 8 years. And actually at one point, the governor and I were seatmates in the legislature together. So that's when we kind of first got to know each other. So I've known her for a long time now. But left the legislature, went to the private sector, and then I kind of got pulled back in by the governor. So here I am again in the public sector.
You can't say no when those calls
come. No, you can't, and especially this job, because again, as an Arizonan who loves my state, doing this kind of job really is an honor, right? Not to sound too corny, but it is. Yeah. And if you had told me, when I was a teenager that I'd be, Chief of Staff for the governor of the state, I would have thought you were crazy. So it's an honor to do it.
Absolutely.
In terms of something that probably nobody knows, good Arizona tidbit here for anybody that's been here a while. I got a Ladmo bag when I was a kid. So there you go. Yeah. So I was the lucky recipient of a Ladmo.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go. Yep.
For those of you who don't know what that is, look it up because it's a huge piece of our history.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. And we're also talking you're a mountain biker, which is cool. You get out there on the mountains and do your thing. Yeah,
that's the one thing I've had to sacrifice a bit when I took this job is not being on my bike as much as I'd like to be, but I'm still doing a pretty good job with it.
Well, maybe us mere mortals could keep up with you.
Don't know about that. I don't think
trails.
I'm immortal. Trust me. Especially the older I get.
Yeah, you do feel it. Okay, so we're in June. Legislature has till the end of the month to complete their business, especially the budget. Give us a legislative update.
Yeah, I think we're making some progress here. We are having conversations. I think we're gonna get there soon. I think it's been a little different this year. You have a lot of new leadership, right, in the caucuses. Other than President Peterson, you have new leadership groups in all three caucuses, which always is a challenge. You have a lot of new members down there who've never done this before. So it's a little different environment. We don't have the situation we had last year, thankfully, where we had to cut like $1 billion+ That's a good thing.
That was tough.
We don't have the situation from 2 years ago, which I wasn't a part of at that point. I wasn't in the administration at that point, but we had a lot of money to spend.
We're flush with money, yeah.
Yeah. So really we have a situation where we have a few $100 million probably to spend. I think we have a lot of priorities where we actually do align with the Republicans on. And so I think it's just kind of getting the ducks in the row here and kind of getting this thing across the finish line.
So you feel like we're in a decent place to get the budget done before the end of the fiscal, it sounds like.
Yeah, there'll be no government shutdown. I can predict that much at least.
You talked about being down there. I think I was on staff when you were there. How has it changed? Just the process, the legislature from that time?
This is probably no big secret. I think that this is true not just here. It's true nationally in any other state. I think we just see more partisanship in general still when it comes to legislative bodies these days. And not saying that's good or bad. I'm going to reserve judgment on that, but I just think that's the case. I think you see a change a lot of times happens because I think of social media channels. A lot of things get now debated on social media, not just, debated in a committee or debated on the floor like they were in the good old days, right? Sound like the old guy here. But that does change the way conversations happen. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But that definitely has impacted how things happen. And I do think the one thing I would say we've seen more of over the last few years, as opposed when I was down there, is it is higher turnover. There's, like I said, there's a lot of new members this year. There were a ton of new members last year. And that does create its own set of challenges because, again, you know how it is. You have to learn the process. Like any job, you have to learn the ins and outs of the job. You have to learn how things work. You have to get to know your colleagues. Personal relationships do matter down there. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. And so when you have a lot of new faces, that kind of takes time. So I think, again, we're in this first year of a lot of new people down there, and they're kind of still hitting their stride. And so we're still seeing that a bit.
And the issues seem to be getting more complex than maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, more complex, a lot more complex. And I think you see national politics bleed into legislative conversations more than I think you used to. And again, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I think it's just the nature of the beast these days. But it is more complex, and there's more information to process because of that. And it is a part-time legislature.
Right.
And I mean this, sincerely to all of these legislators. They have a very tough job. And, again, I was a former legislator. I know what it is. But getting that information in the amount of time they have to figure that out, process, and make a decision, it's challenging when you're a part-time legislator. And so it's hard when it gets more and more complex, and just makes it more challenging and more reliant on staff and makes their job harder too.
And it's not like at the congressional level, there's not as many staff there really to do the work.
Yeah, it's you have a handful of staff and you do what you can with a handful of staff, and they're all working hard all the time. I mean, they're overworked. I can tell you the staff in the governor's office is overworked. Yeah. Everybody's doing the best they can, but it's not like DC. It's not like some massive corporation. You got limited staff, and they're working hard all the time.
As we're closing in on the end of the session, what were some of the big wins you think for the governor? But you mentioned the state, and you've always been someone who I think really cares deeply about the state. But some big wins for Arizona.
Yeah, I think we've had a couple. I think one that comes to mind obviously is the Axon issue. We had a situation again where Axon, which I think is an amazing success story here in Arizona. It's a global company now, right? I think we all know what I'm going to talk about here. They were thinking about leaving because their deal to redevelop their campus up in Scottsdale got referred to the ballot by a group of voters and maybe some out-of-state interests. We're not quite sure there. It's a little murky. And then what happened was you had a new city council come in, new mayor come in after that referral. And instead of saying, okay, let's send this referral to the ballot immediately, let the voters decide, which I think had they done that, I think none of this would have had to have happened. But they didn't. What they said was, let's delay this till November 2026, and let's wait till then have the voters decide. Well, if I'm Axon, if I'm, shareholders of Axon, I'm not going to sit around for 2 years and wait for my, it doesn't work. How do I know if I'm going to invest my money properly? It needed to get done, and a decision needed to be made. So, the governor wanted to fix that immediately, and we wanted to do it in a way that didn't undermine the will of the voters, didn't undermine or prevent people from doing referrals in the future or having votes in the future on these types of land issues. So, she brought together a bipartisan group of legislators. She brought together stakeholders, worked with Axon, worked with a bunch of people to come up with a really, I think, elegant solution to this plan. And as you know, we got it out the door and signed. I think that was a big win for Arizona. And I think had we lost Axon and we had, we had Texas and Florida, and Texas was like, tweeting at them basically directly, said, come to our state. Had we lost Axon, I think that would have been a huge black eye on the state of Arizona in terms of business development and economic development. And I think the opposite happened. I think we showed that we are a major player in that space. The governor is a leader when it comes to just retaining and attracting businesses here. And she means business, no pun intended there. And I think that was a huge win for all of us. It's thousands of jobs, new housing. We need housing. And it's a great company, and they're a great partner in the community too.
Well, it also, I think, sends the right message to companies looking to Arizona, correct?
Yeah, 100%.
New jobs that are potentially coming to Arizona.
Yes, 100%. And again, I think it shows too, in this day and age, to your point, Todd, in this day and age, when we are sometimes so caught up in partisanship and kind of political gamesmanship, to show to the world that a Democratic governor can work with a Republican-led legislature to bring together a bipartisan coalition of people to fix a problem like that and keep a company like that here, I think that sends a very loud message.
It does.
And I think it shows to the states like Texas or Florida or California, who are all one-party states, right? Hey, we have bipartisan government. We can get it done just like you guys can.
Yeah, a tremendous win, and I think people were watching for that.
Yeah, agreed.
Any other wins you'd like to talk about?
I think there's some other wins out there too. I think that not necessarily the business community related, but it is a little bit. We had the DDD funding fight issue, which is the Developing Disabled Funding Programs. Not necessarily business related, but it is because of having that program funded allows parents to continue to be in the workforce to some degree. It's a stability factor for families. With kids who have special needs and have certain needs that can't be met in normal or regular circumstances. So funding that program and getting that bill across the finish line, despite some Republican opposition from certain sectors of the caucuses down there, was a huge win because, again, it provides stability for these families. They know they're going to have the care their kids need. They know that, if one parent has to stay home, they can do it and the other parent can work, whatever it may be. But it creates stability right there, I think, overall for everybody. And that's a huge win. And I think overall, as we head into the finish line here, I still believe we're going to get a couple, maybe one or two water bills across the finish line. I'm hopeful about that. I think the budget's going to have some wins for the business community in Arizona overall. And I think we're going to come out of the session looking pretty good. And again, we really have rebounded pretty quickly from where we were at last year. We had to cut $1 billion. And I think that's a big win for all of us.
It's nice to be in a position where we're actually balanced plus.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to switch gears a little bit. I travel around the country, probably the first thing that I hear about is TSMC. And where are we at now?
165 billion, give or take, I think. Yep.
It's staggering. Right? I mean, those are federal government numbers. Those are state government numbers.
Yeah. I mean, you think that there's an error. You think they've added a 1 or a 6 or something's wrong when you look at that number, right? It's a huge win for Arizona. And this again is a testament to what I think is a proud tradition of governors, be it Democratic or Republican, going all the way back to Janet Napolitano, who've really, and through Jan Brewer, Doug Ducey, and now my boss, Governor Hobbs, who've really focused on making sure Arizona is in a position to be an economic powerhouse. And we're seeing the fruits of that. Again, as a native, growing up here, manufacturing wasn't something we did.
No.
We were not going to be competing with Silicon Valley or places like that. And now not only are we competing with them, we're beating them, quite frankly. And so it's a huge pivot for Arizona and it's a huge win for all of us. And I think the good news is going to keep coming in that space.
Well, the Commerce Authority was very deeply engaged, but I understand the governor also and has built some significant relationships with the folks at TSMC. You can talk to us a little bit about that process.
The governor's gone over to Taiwan twice now, and I think it says a lot. I don't think I know. I went on one of those trips with her, and you can see it when you're there firsthand. When a governor flies across the Pacific Ocean to come and meet with you and sits face to face with you and talks business with you, they know they got a serious partner, right? Yeah. They know that they're not looking at somebody who's kind of doing this as just a political stunt or whatever. They know they've got somebody who's going to fight for them. And so she's been over there twice now. She's met with TSMC leadership. She's met with government leadership over there. She's met with other business leaders over there, which we can talk about in a minute too, because we have other companies coming, not just TSMC. But they see that partnership. And ACA, you mentioned Commerce Authority. They've been instrumental in this. Sandra Watson's been amazing on this front. She was on those trips with us too. But I think it's just building up trust. And, it's a very different culture here from a corporate standpoint and a government standpoint. When you go to Taiwan, TSMC kind of does what they want over there, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. They're not that separated from the government, right? Come to America, we know it's a little different here. You can't just take a bunch of land and build anything you want, and you can't just do anything you want. You got to jump through a lot of hoops, and there's different local levels and state and federal. And so when they see a governor who says to them, I'm going to make sure you get through those hurdles. We're going to do this, and we're going to walk through this, walk through the fire with you together, be it through local stuff or federal stuff. It gives them the courage to come and I think the confidence to come and invest hundreds of billions of dollars here, basically.
Well, and the proof is there, right? The increase in those investments over time is astronomical.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the scale of their investment here and what they're producing here, what they're going to be producing here, it is mind-boggling. And there's nothing quite like the campuses they have in Taiwan. I mean, those things it's like going to a spaceship out there. But I mean, outside of that investment in Taiwan, this is going to be their focal point.
Yeah, and it's great that it's right there, and to see those fabs go up, and the fact that we're going to be front and center.
Yeah, it's I will say it's funny. You mentioned I mountain bike, so I mountain bike up in North Valley a lot, up in the Sonoran Preserve up there, and I actually posted on Instagram a few weeks ago, a couple of pictures. I climbed a couple of mountains, 2 different places, and you could see TSMC from the top of the hill. And I said, posted on Instagram, what other place in the world can you get up a good ascent on a mountain bike, 30 minutes from your house, and then also say, I'm looking at the most advanced manufacturing facility on the planet. I mean, it's pretty cool, actually.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So you talked about making sure that we meet some of the challenges. One of those is workforce. We always are focused on water.
Yep.
And power. So how are those things coming into play?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll start with workforce really quick. Workforce has been a huge focus for Governor Hobbs since she took office. And in particular, one of the things she really wanted to focus on was not just training people to do jobs, but training people to do jobs that we need and that the employers need, and aligning the workforce development side of things with the actual employee demand side of things, right? And TSMC being a perfect example of this. They need folks that can build things, they need engineers, they need all this stuff. Yeah. So partnering with the trades, partnering with ASU, partnering with those types of institutions and entities to churn out those workers and go just plug and play in that facility and hit the ground running has been, I think, part of the reason TSMC is investing. I think they're very impressed with how we've adapted to creating a workforce they need. And so, the governor launched a program when she first took office, the Talent Ready AZ program, which really took a lot of the different workforce programs that were in place and created some new ones and put them all under one umbrella. And then she created her workforce cabinet, which is kind of the overseeing entity to manage all of this. And again, it's not just about training folks for jobs. It's about working with employers to train folks for the right jobs. Sure. And not just jobs that are high quality, jobs that pay well, jobs that are going to be stable and going to be there for the long term.
Demand,
yeah. I mean, you don't want to train people to build widgets if we don't need widgets in 5 years, right? What's the point of being a widget manufacturer if nobody needs a widget? So I think that was a key. And I think we found success in that. And we have a lot of ambitious goals in terms of jobs creation, jobs created. By 2030, we have a lot of ambitious goals within certain sectors of how many jobs we want to create. And so far, we're on track with those numbers. So it's been good to see. I think we're at about 117,000 jobs created right now in the first couple of years. And now, again, we may have some slowdown on the federal side. We have the chaos of tariffs, which I'm sure you'll bring up. Overall, Arizona's outperforming the rest of the country still in the job space. And I think that is in large part due to all the things we're talking about here. When it comes to water and energy, on the water front, what I would say, and I don't want to brag, but I would say that I think Governor Hobbs has probably taken on the water challenge and jumped in the water space more than any governor since Bruce Babbitt, quite frankly. She has looked at, a good example, looked at bad deals for taxpayers with state land leases where water is being used inefficiently or ineffectively or not being used legally by the deal we had in place. Good example of this being the Fundamante deal out in the West Valley. She canceled that lease. They were not upholding their end of the lease. That was a good win for Arizona taxpayers, good win for water sustainability. She has worked with Department of Water Resources to create the designated assured water supply, the alternative designated assured water supply, to kind of address some of the issues that the Ducey administration uncovered when it comes to the 100-year water supply limitations in the West Valley and East Valley. This new program, it got through rules a couple months ago. It's about to go up and running. That'll allow for these places to start building again and in a way that's sustainable. She's working on legislation right now. She's working down there on the ag to urban bill, for instance, which would convert ag land to residential use land, save water in that conversion. And really, it's a great way to, quite frankly, make sure farmers get paid for the value of their land, but save water for the future. But I think overall, the water ecosystem is important for everybody, right? And one thing too, the other thing that I think has been phenomenal to see is working with Director Bishotsky over at ADWR. He's done a phenomenal job of really kind of aligning the lower basin states as we head into compact negotiations around the Colorado River next year, which was something that was hard to do a while back, right? And so I think we're in a good position as we head in that negotiation next year to get our fair share of water from the upper basin states and not lose our fair share. And that's critical.
Absolutely.
You can talk about groundwater all you want. Yeah. We can talk about desal plants. We can talk about all these things. But at the end of the day, one of the major lifebloods still when it comes to water for Arizona is the Colorado River, Absolutely. Right? So I think that's huge. I think that's going to be great progress. And then on the energy front, I will say this. I think energy is it gets lost in the mix. Water is the kind of sexy issue everybody talks about. But energy is actually more concerning to me in a lot of ways. When you talk about a TSMC, when you talk about any of these manufacturing operations or data centers, which are going to be a necessary part of our future, right? With AI and everything else, some of these things consume a lot of energy, not water so much. They've gotten more efficient in water, but energy. And so we meet, and the governor meets on a regular basis with the utility companies. We meet with the employers. I know that, again, the Commerce Authority does a great job when they're talking to potential people that they're thinking about bringing to the market to make sure we have the capacity to meet their energy needs. And if not, how do we figure out how to get that capacity, working with utilities and other stakeholders? So that's been a key, really a key focus for the governor. And she's of the mindset that we need to transition to a cleaner energy future. That's not even a question for her. We need to reduce our carbon footprint. Our energy portfolio needs to reduce that carbon footprint, but you can't do it overnight. And there's a process. It's a process, and you need a base load. You need a stable base load. So it's all of the above. It's going to be solar. It's going to be wind. There's going to be natural gas for a while, and nuclear is going to be a huge component of the future here. And I think most people across the country are finally waking up to that. But if we believe that we have to lower carbon output, which my boss does, the best way to do that is clean, safe nuclear. You have a lot of ancillary companies coming in that support the operations of a TSMC. For instance, suppliers of certain types of parts, certain types of demand within workforce, like I said, other things like that. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, it also just attracts other major players now. And a lot of that too is due to the work that we've been kind of putting our energy and our effort into things like going to Taiwan and visiting with these companies and some of the business development activities. But you have, Amcor, for instance, who announced a packaging, chip packaging plant out in Peoria. It's a $2 billion investment, again, which sounds small when you talk about $165 billion compared to TSMC, but 5 years ago, we would have been like $2 billion. That's crazy. Yeah. And it's their first plant in America, in the US, and it'll be the largest packaging plant in the United States. And that's a big deal because that's part of the chip manufacturing process.
Ecosystem.
Yeah, you got to build it and you got to package it. And I don't want to get too far in the weeds and geek out, but that's what you have to do. And I learned all about it when we were in Taiwan. It's a fascinating process. But that's one example. You have all these other companies coming in that are also doing more investment in here. LG, some of these other companies that are coming here and either putting in new operations or expanding in their operations already here. And I think what it says, though, in the big picture is it goes back to what we said a minute ago. I think we've proven that we are open for business here. And when you look at these companies as a whole, we are talking about, literally hundreds of billions of dollars of investment over time. And, tens of thousands of jobs, if not more, over time. And that matters for a lot of reasons. It matters because, again, we want to attract that talent to Arizona. We want them to come here, live here, raise their families here, absolutely, enjoy life here. And all that revenue that creates can be reinvested back into our community. So when we get those tax dollars from a TSMC, we can make sure our infrastructure is up to date. We can make sure our schools are funded. We can make sure we have parks, all the stuff that we want to have our quality of life. And so that's very important. And again, these are the types of industries and the types of employers that aren't going anywhere anytime soon. These are here for the long haul. And so I really believe we are setting ourselves up for success for decades in this state right now. And once you start building these types of things, another state can't just swoop in and take them away.
That's a little hard.
Yeah, exactly. And so we've got some really solid footing here in that space. And I think it's just going to continue to grow.
I want to go to the international side, and of course that is tariffs.
Yep.
The governor assembled a group of business leaders from around the state talking about this issue. I know she's been involved, but maybe give us a little sense of where you stand, where the governor stands, and where we should be going on this.
Yeah, generally speaking, the governor is opposed to tariffs at large, very skeptical of them. I know that she has done some events with the Phoenix Chamber, yep, and the Arizona Chamber, the produce guys, everybody else, especially when it talks about the Mexico tariffs and the Canadian tariffs. You mentioned some other states not being as big a deal. It's not even necessarily the associated rising costs, which we'll talk about in a minute, and the fact that we just view these mainly as a new tax on consumers at the end of the day, right? But it's also the chaos that this creates. And this, if you're a business person, if you're a business looking to invest, a business looking to expand, when you have this level of uncertainty, it makes it's like the Axon thing. Yep. It makes it tough to invest in the long term until you figure out where this is headed. And I don't think anybody knows where this is headed right now with the tariffs. I'm not even sure, the Trump administration knows where this is headed with the tariffs. And it's not just here, like for Mexico, for instance, it's not just here, like the impact it has on the price of goods coming into Arizona, for instance. It's also, are people going to locate their businesses in Mexico if they can't actually get access to the American market because of tariffs? And if they don't, then does that disrupt the supply chain, for instance, be it in the chip space, the auto manufacturing space, whatever. You look at tariffs that are in the kind of the tariffs in the automobile space. Cars nowadays every car is made from all around the world. There's no car that's made solely in the U.S. or made solely in South Korea.
Is an example, right?
Yes.
Here, but not here.
No, here, but not here. And so it doesn't matter if you're not putting a tariff on American cars. Something they are built with is being tariffed, right? I don't know if that's just tariffed a word. I guess it is. It is now. And eventually that is going to hit the bottom line, which is going to be a price transfer to consumers. So the governor's pretty adamant that she doesn't think this is a good way to approach this. I think we understand, and the governor understands it. Are there mismatched or are there unbalanced trade scenarios with certain countries? Sure. Are there national security issues with certain countries? Sure. We have issues with China. We have issues with Russia. I get that. The Canadian tariffs, for instance, for me especially, I'm not sure why we were fighting with Canada for the life of me. I cannot figure it out. I will never be able to figure that one out. I do not know why we're attacking Canada. It's like attacking the neighbor who watches your dog for you when you go on vacation. I don't understand this. Makes no sense to me at all. I will never figure it out for the life of me. And I think a lot of people viewed the tariffs against Mexico as a bargaining tool for border security. Okay, fair enough, whatever. Maybe that's a legitimate point. But you gotta have a plan here. And again, we're not sure about there being a plan attached to these tariffs. So overall, the governor again views the tariffs with a lot of skepticism. I think most people do in the business community. And, she doesn't have any direct power over stopping him. Obviously, we can't tell the president what to do. But I think when it comes to standing with the business community, trying to talk to people in a constructive way about why they're a bad idea, talk to the administration, talk to our congressional delegation, talk to people in DC about why it's a bad idea. She'll do that all day long, and she'll be here for that fight all day long.
It's certainly appreciated. I mean, it is definitely going to have an impact.
Yep.
Well, the next phase of this would be NAFTA or USMCA reauthorization. That's in the works. I understand the governor's been front and center on that as well.
Yeah, and I know part of it. I mean, you sit on the AMC, the Arizona Mexico Commission. I know that she's working with that commission and looks at that commission as being a lot of it being kind of the focal point of how we navigate that review. You could probably talk more about this than I could, being on the commission. But I think using the AMC as the conduit for those conversations and engaging our partners on the Mexico side, engaging with stakeholders across the board, engaging with the federal side of things, using that commission as the conduit is really, I think, the governor's approach to this. And creating those partnerships with the Mexico side of the equation is going to be huge on this front. And it's important that people understand why this is important, why the review is a big deal. If this goes one way or another way, it could have a significant impact on Arizona's economy, not just Southern Arizona, but everybody. And I think really when we look at this and when the governor looks at this, I will go back to the commission for a minute. All of you got appointed to the Mexico Commission for a reason. You all have expertise in a lot of different areas. And building those relationships with everybody involved in this review process through the leadership of the Arizona Mexico Commission, and then using that foundation, that knowledge you all have and that expertise you all have to kind of leverage the position and leverage what we think is important in that review process is going to be critical. And I think that's where we hope this all heads when it's all said and done.
Well, hopefully, yes. I mean, it's such a critical element for us, especially as a border state, and obviously Canada. To your point,
exactly,
to have all three of the nations together.
Yep.
Well, I know you're really busy, and appreciate you being here with just a few final questions. What keeps you up at night?
Everything at this point. How's that sound? The caffeine I consume all day long. I think right now, I mentioned this earlier. Energy is actually an issue that keeps me up at night. I think that it's important, and it gets lost because everybody's concerned about water, as we should be. But energy is the big one down the road that I think, not just here in Arizona, nationally, we're gonna have challenges, and globally, I think. So how do we make that transition from more carbon-based to cleaner energy while maintaining the stability of the grid and the baseload we need on a regular basis to maintain our quality of life? We do not want brownouts like Texas or California. We don't want that. We're not going to have that. I think we have very good partners here in the state, but that keeps me up at night in a lot of ways. And I think right now, in the short term right now, it is the budget. I mean, we are in the middle of the budget fight. I think we're going to get there, don't get me wrong. But we still have a lot of areas in the state where we have long-term needs that we're kind of ignoring a little bit. And we keep kicking that can down the road successfully for now, but I don't know how long we can do that. And, be it education, for instance, which is important to everybody, including the business community, be it, and this is a big one, be it childcare, which I know a lot of people don't, again, attach childcare to like business interests per se, but they're directly related. It is. And we have a huge shortage of childcare providers in this state. We have, growing costs in childcare space, and we have a growing wait list. We have to address that sooner rather than later if we want to continue to have a good workforce and have people with, stable family lives, and they can go to the workplace and know their kids are safe.
Yeah, hard to go to work if your kids aren't taken care of.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to have is people who have to go to work and then putting their kids in an unsafe environment that's not like a licensed child care provider. So things like that are the examples of like these long-term things that we, I don't want to say ignoring because we know it's there, but we just haven't had the political will to address yet. And, the governor had a pretty comprehensive child care program in her budget that she unveiled in January. We're still in negotiations on that. And I don't think we'll get it all, but I think we'll get some of it, which I think will be chipping away at that. But we've got to keep going down that road with our legislative friends in getting to some of these systemic problems that aren't the big sexy issues, but are probably the underpinning of foundational problems if we let them keep going.
Someone said that 20 years ago, and now we have TSMC, right? We're intentional, and
exactly.
It's a long way away.
Yep.
So we'll go to more of the positive. What gives you confidence in the morning when you wake up? And
yeah, I mean, again, I'll flip on this. I think on the energy side, it keeps me up. At the same time, I think we're tackling it head on. I think we are not ignoring it. We are, like I said, talking to utilities on a regular basis. We're talking to the business folks about their needs and their demands. I think we're way ahead of the curve than most states are in energy, actually. So it keeps me up at night, but it keeps me up at night because we're working on it.
Okay, well, that's fair.
Yeah, does that make sense?
That makes me feel better.
Yeah. So I'm actually very positive about our energy outlook. I don't want to sound negative, but it's something we have to continue to focus on. And I think we have the political environment in Arizona to get things done that other states can't get done in energy. And I think we have the track record, in particular, like you mentioned, with nuclear, unlike any other state, that I think gives Arizonans a lot of confidence to pursue nuclear here. So I think that's one good thing. And I think overall, I still believe that I kind of alluded this earlier with the Axon thing, but despite the divided government we have a Republican legislature, and, my boss is a Democrat. We do get a lot of things done. We do work together well with them on a lot of things. We all understand the needs that we have in a lot of ways. So we get caught up in some of these partisan fights, and, people fight on Twitter and all that stuff. And, right. She vetoed another bill. I get it. But what gets lost is all the stuff that we work on together with them and comes and gets signed into law. A lot of good things happen in that space. We've done a lot of good stuff on public safety this year. We just got a rules package passed through GERC yesterday that was a direct result of legislation from last year, that it continues to make our homes that provide care for seniors and people with memory care safer and safer. That didn't happen years ago. I mean, and we had to get through partisan divides on that and get it done. And then we got it through rules making yesterday. So we're getting things done. And honestly, I think sometimes having to do it in a bipartisan fashion actually leads it to the best possible solution.
A lot of government can be good.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's good, and I think we're going to continue to do that. I think my boss has proven she's willing to work with anybody on that type of stuff. And so I have faith we'll keep doing that.
Excellent. Well, you mentioned 20 years in the business. What was your most memorable legislative? And it doesn't have to be in the legislature, but policy related moment.
Yeah, I mean, mine personally, it's probably an easy one. Mine was Medicaid restoration with Governor Brewer. I was the minority leader at the time. Yeah. And you were around. That was a huge fight. We had, majority of the Republicans who didn't like it. We had a small band of Republicans teaming up with me and my caucus and my fellow Dems in the Senate, and then, Governor Brewer leading the charge. And so that was a big one. And it was not an easy fight. People who weren't around, it took months and months. Yep. But we got it done. And, we gave healthcare to about 400,000 people. And, it's at risk now, which scares me. And that's bad for both from a healthcare side of things and also an economic side of things. As it'd be devastating if they were to gut Medicaid and stuff like that and Medicare. So that was a huge thing. And, the one thing in San Francisco is the press conference, though, we did with Jan Brewer. Her and I gave each other a hug when we were doing that, which was doing the bill signing. And I remember Bram Resnick tweeted out like the scene from Ghostbusters when he talks about cats and dogs hugging each other in the streets or whatever. And he tweeted out with that clip with me and Governor Brewer hugging. So that'll always stay in my memory for the rest of my life.
That's a good and memorable, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do a quick lightning round. First job.
Paperboy, first job.
What'd you learn?
I like bikes. That's when I started riding bikes.
You did, huh?
Never went back. I've been on a bicycle since then, basically.
Awesome. First car.
65 Mustang.
Ooh,
yeah, orange 65 Mustang, which is also my favorite color to this day, orange. So maybe there's a trend here.
Automatic or stick?
Stick, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, even more credibility there. Yep. Okay, you wish you had it still?
No, I'm past that. No.
You're done with that?
I have a fake knee. I don't need a stick shift at this point in my life. It's done.
Okay. First concert.
Oh man, that's a tough one. First concert would have been probably Lollapalooza, the first one, my first real concert. Yeah, that would have been my first
Another good one.
Yeah, another great one. Yeah.
Wow.
At Compton Terrace.
Compton Terrace, yeah, back in the day.
Yep.
Okay, a lot of credibility there.
Yep.
So finally, what advice do you have for me as leader of the chamber and a member of the business community?
Oh, geez. I was going to say, what advice do you have for me? Hold on. You're flipping this on in, Todd. I think you guys do a great job working with people in a nonpartisan way and kind of sticking with the issues, right? Not getting in the weeds on partisan kind of crap and staying focused. And I think that's the way to do it. I think, again, we have a lot of new people in the political space, and I think that and this is not, I don't mean this to knock anybody, you have a lot to learn in a very short amount of time. And, having people like the chamber or other folks that are trusted partners that can deliver facts and deliver information in a nonpartisan way is immensely helpful to everybody in this space, immensely helpful to us as we kind of navigate this partisan divide that we are in. So I say, keep doing what you're doing, and keep helping, get the facts out there and get through kind of the misinformation that sometimes seeps through.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. I hope that after July 1st, you spend some time out and on your bike.
Yeah. I got a vacation plan for July 4th, so I'm very excited about that. So,
there you go.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you, my friend. Appreciate everything you're doing, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of Let's Talk Business Phoenix. Please take a moment to tap the follow or subscribe button for more great podcast episodes to help your business thrive.